The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California, and tonight we are not only going to prepare you for the upcoming holidays using Feng Shui, we're going to give you some needed tips on how to Feng Shui your house, your office, and to get you in gear for a fabulous life in 2013. I am so excited about the show because we have Feng Shui author and expert Carol Olmsted with us, as well as Jim Thomas, the owner of Feng Shui Emporium at LuckyCat.com. And they're going to help you in getting the proper tools and cures to make your life totally shine by using the art of Feng Shui. This is going to be so fascinating. So I want you to sit back, relax, tune in as we get some great Feng Shui tips right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Law of Attraction Radio Network, enhancing the well-being of millions of listeners worldwide. LOARadionetwork.com is heard through 25 different internet radio stations, as well as iTunes Radio, Stitcher.com, and our mobile apps. The Law of Attraction Radio Network, your trusted source of daily inspiration at LOARadionetwork.com.
Okay, we're back. As you know, Feng Shui is all about creating a harmonious flow of energy in your environment, releasing and preventing blocks of stagnant energy. Energy in Feng Shui is called Qi. Now, I've been using the principles of Feng Shui for at least 15 years, and I noticed that when I allow or redirect the flow of Qi, I flourish, especially after redecorating by using Feng Shui principles. And the effects are nothing short of miraculous. You see, I believe that the very act of shifting furniture or pictures on the wall is an action step in manifesting our intentions. The law of attraction and Feng Shui go hand in hand because it's all about energy, manifestation, and taking the appropriate action step with intention. Now, if you're stuck in a particular area of your life, such as finances or your love life or your family is a bit chaotic, you may want to pay special attention and try some of Carol Olmsted's suggestions. And no, you don't have to move as long as you get the correct cures to redirect the Qi. So that's why I invited one of the best places on the internet to get high quality Feng Shui products at terrific prices. I so highly recommend this place. It's called Feng Shui Emporium at LuckyCat.com. So let me introduce Carol Olmsted, who is the internationally acclaimed author of Feng Shui Quick Guide for Home and Office and 365 Feng Shui Secrets. You can find Carol at carololmsted.com, and she specializes in helping you attract wealth, harmony, love, and much more. She has taught thousands of clients and students and readers the simple secrets of using Feng Shui to improve their lives. Welcome, Carol.
Thanks, Jules.
I also want you to meet Jim Thomas, owner of the Feng Shui Emporium at LuckyCat.com. Not only has he some really terrific personal Feng Shui stories for us, Jim is the epitome of what the new paradigm in business is all about. Jim really cares about his customers, his Feng Shui consultants, and especially about shifting the consciousness of the planet into personal peace and abundance. So I'm so happy he could be with us today. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
So let's get started. We've got so much to cover. Carol, there are different schools of Feng Shui. For instance, you studied under pyramid Feng Shui. How do we know what kind of practice we should follow for our own personal environment?
Well, I think that's a great question. And these days, the quick answer is that there are so many schools and approaches to Feng Shui that it does give an individual lots of options. I studied pyramid school because it is an approach to Feng Shui that's a little more contemporary, a little modern, is based on the individual, how they want to live in their home, how they want to work in their office or workspace, and how they relate to the natural world around us. For example, we all know that we feel better when we're outside than when we're inside. And in Feng Shui, that's our goal, to make your interior surroundings feel as good as we all feel in nature. The words Feng Shui mean wind and water. So I often use the analogy of thinking about a glorious spring day. The skies are blue, the trees are full, they're swaying in a light breeze, and if you're lucky, you're sitting by some meandering water. That's how it feels to have good feng shui, and that's what we want inside our houses. Different approaches, different schools to Feng Shui look at that slightly differently. The original, what we like to call the original Feng Shui, was form school Feng Shui. And that looks at where your home is placed in regard to the landforms around you. So, for example, when Feng Shui started anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago with Chinese farmers, they found that where they placed their farm affected whether they would just survive or thrive. And so form school Feng Shui looks at having a mountain behind you for support, landforms on either side of you for a little protection, and a flowing stream, the water, the sun in front of you. As people move to more urban societies, from agrarian societies, they began changing Feng Shui to fit the way they lived. So there are various approaches, schools, like compass school Feng Shui, which orients everything on a compass. But a Feng Shui compass is a little different. North is at the bottom, south is at the top. A little different than your standard compass. There's also something called black hat or black sect Feng Shui that involves some Tibetan Buddhism. There's Western school, the Western school of Feng Shui. A little bit more about that relates to, again, how we live in our homes and work in our environments. And so there are a lot of exciting ways that you can practice and study Feng Shui these days.
Well, how do we pick the right one for us? How do we know which one to go to, which practitioner to use?
One of the things that I like about working with Jim in the Feng Shui Emporium is that he also has the Feng Shui directory. And that's a searchable list, a searchable directory of Feng Shui practitioners by state. And each description clearly identifies the school that this particular individual practices or was trained in. And when you're reading through the list of practitioners in your area, you will get a feel for how they practice. And what you need to do is see what resonates with you. And I also recommend contacting each of these individuals, asking them questions. How do they practice? Do they use a compass? Do they follow black hat? It depends a lot on you and how you want Feng Shui to work for you.
Wow. So can we use more than one type of Feng Shui?
That's a very complicated question to answer. I sometimes find that when you mix and match, if you're not skilled in any one particular approach, you're going to get in trouble. And that's why it's best to work with a professional who has been trained, who has been skilled. Most of these schools deal with the bagua, which is that mapping chart for arranging your surroundings. Most of them deal with the 5 elements, which is how Feng Shui views color and shape and texture. So there is some uniformity. But again, I think if you talk with, email with, correspond with different practitioners and find out what they're going to do for you, then you'll know a little bit more about whether they're planning to mix and match. But on your own, I don't recommend it. I recommend you find a book in the school that appeals to you and start that way, reading in that one school or that one approach to Feng Shui.
Jim, I think Carol brings up some great points about hiring a Feng Shui consultant. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's important because it provides you with a three-dimensional process. Whenever we read a book, we have the one-dimensional or two-dimensional, but whenever you have somebody that is curtailing their formula around you, it provides so much more than what you could do in a book. A lot of times we get lost in books, and it's not the fault of the book writers. I know Carol writes a beautiful book, but sometimes we get lost because we don't know all of the different facets and the small things. And whenever you have a consultant come to you, and they basically just generally ask you, what do you want? And then they formulate something for you, and then they'll tell you exactly how to format your home or your business and to make those things come to pass.
Case in point, for me, I started off by reading books to basically understand the principles. But each book, as you said, no matter how well they're written, they're not directed to my specific problem. And I think that's where a consultant really makes a difference. They are talking to me about my particular issues. And I think that's much better than just using a book that can only offer generic feng shui.
Yes, it does really work. I'm a true testament to it. I never had my home feng shuied until I got into the position where I bought the Lucky Cat. And then I was asked, have you ever had a consultant come to your home? And I said, no, I need to. And they said, well, we're going to come by and see you on Sunday before we leave. And what they did, they came in, and it was so strange because one was, normally they don't come when two, but this particular one did. And they came in, and one took off and just walking around my house, and they did some sort of certain steps and different things. But it was very interesting. And the outcome was a little disturbing because I had to move every single room in my house. Everybody, my kid was in the wrong room, was in the relationship room, and he was becoming overbearing and things like that. He wanted to be the parent. And we're like, no, it shouldn't work like that. So we had to put him back where he needs to be. And then my wife and I moved into the relationship area, and it really took care of it really turned his attitude around. So that's just one of the observations that we really saw from having a consultant come in.
I noticed, Carol, that when you do the compass, you have to do the compass for two people, your spouse or your children. And it's just not about the basic bangwa that can work for everybody. Am I on target with that?
Well, compass school is not my specialty, but what is uniform in all schools of feng shui is it's important to talk to all of the adult occupants of the house. You can't really work with just one person. And even if all people can't be there for the consultation, you need to make sure you're consulting with all of the adults, usually the husband and wife or the partners who live there, for the very reasons that Jim was talking about. Sometimes you've got a child in the wrong room, or sometimes I find this one very often, where a couple has a guest room, and they have guests maybe once a year on the holidays, but they have to preserve that guest room. And yet they're struggling sharing an office, or their office is part of their dining room table, and their home-based business is not thriving. Well, let's take that guest room and turn it into the office, because you're keeping this room for no reason. And so we really need to talk to both occupants of the house, or all adult occupants, find out what's going on with their lives individually, collectively, and then offer recommendations.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Carol, let's talk about the bagua, and let's talk about your type of feng shui. And let's focus on buying a new house. And you're going through and you're seeing all these beautiful designs, but there's maybe a couple of things that aren't working feng shui. Like, for example, the stove and the sink are facing each other. Are there cures available so we don't have to pass up on our perfect new house or apartment?
Well, yes, it is true. I like to say that we can fix most houses. So the issue is if you're looking for a new house, then there are things we can actually choose between. If you already have a house with the sink and the stove, you don't have to sell it. We can fix that. But when you're looking at a house, for example, the first thing you want to deal with is the front door. We call the front door the mouth of Qi. Qi is energy in Feng Shui. It's because all of the good, positive energy enters your home through the front door. Even if you come in through the garage or the back porch, we're concerned about that front door. And if it opens up to a wall, your energy is blocked. It's not going anywhere. If it opens up to a bathroom, theoretically, your energy comes in the front door and dumps down the toilet. If it opens to a stairway, your energy is pulled upstairs and nothing is happening on your first level. So that's one thing to kitchen you point out is a great example. A stove is fire, a sink is water. They tend to neutralize each other. You're not getting the fire you need for passion and abundance in your kitchen. You're not really getting the water for flow and movement. The very simple cure is we can either put a green rug on the floor between those two appliances, between the stove and the sink if they're opposing each other. Or what I do is I get these tiny little nickel-sized stick-on mirrors. I get them at Michael's and craft shops, and I just stick it on the stove, and that reflects away any of the negative energy for the water, putting out your fire energy from the stove.
Wow.
If we had the choice, we would look for a house where the stove and sink aren't in opposition like that. But if we have it, we can fix it.
What about when you enter your front door and it goes all the way straight to your back door? Sliding glass doors, French doors.
Well, we call that one a poison arrow. Because the energy just follows that straight hallway from the front door right out the back door. So again, ideally, we would look for a house if we're buying a house that doesn't have that. But if we have one, the trick is to get that energy to slow down and curve, like wind and water, through that hallway. And we can do that by putting a rug, a small area rug, not a long runner, because a long runner would pull it even faster out the door, hanging artwork and hanging that artwork on the walls at different heights, different shapes, so we're not perpetuating this, all rectangular photos in a straight line. If the hall's big enough, we might put a piece of furniture there, a vase on the table with some flowers, depending on the size of your home. But anything that slows down that movement of qi from door to door. We can put window coverings, window treatments on the door to the back of the house, so that also keeps the energy inside. Lots of ways we can fix things.
Great. Going back to the Bengua, and there are 9 separate areas in that. What do you do if you have a corner missing, like prosperity corner? Is there a cure for that?
There certainly are, and that actually is a cure that I need to do most frequently. In Feng Shui, we like a house that's a square or a rectangle because we are going to divide it into the 9 areas of the Bagua. And when they're nice and equally divided, then you live a very balanced and harmonious life in the house. But when your house is oddly shaped, and here in America we tend to like these oddly shaped houses, then you are probably missing one of these areas. And the correction is usually very easy. We go outside and find where the walls would come together if this house were a square or a rectangle, and we mark that point. And that anchors the home and brings the missing area back in. And we do this not just because Carol says to do it. We do it with an affirmation that says, I'm now placing this cure and bringing the house back into balance. The cure can be anything as simple as maybe placing a little stone on the area where the house would come together. Or it can be a little more involved, even more effective, is to find an object that relates to the missing area. So, for example, if you're missing the wealth area, it would be something that relates to wealth. If you're missing a love area, it's a pair of things. that relate to love. And that's where Jim and his Feng Shui Emporium come in, because there's lots of good things that I find there to recommend to clients to use to make that correction. Wind chimes, for example, lovely thing to use to fill in, to mark the spot that fills in the missing areas. Wind chimes tend to call the energy, call the chi to a spot, plus we've marked that missing area. And again, I have to do this in most of the homes I work with, other than, say, a row house that is just a nice rectangle that isn't missing any areas. It does have other issues we have to deal with.
Let's go back to the wind chimes. Are there particular kinds of wind chimes that you have to be particular about in your cures? Are there hollow metal wind chimes? Are there wood wind chimes? Are there 6 wands versus 5 wands? Is there anything that we're supposed to be looking for in wind chimes?
I'm not sure there's any one best. We can be very specific in picking one depending on what we need to fix around your home. But I find that wind chimes are such a positive feng shui symbol that any kind are going to be effective for this purpose.
Well, that's good to know. Let's talk about the mentor corner. Now, if you're missing that in your house, I'm assuming that's going to create all kinds of havoc in your social life and in your business life.
The mentor corner, first, how you use the bagua is you stand at the front door holding this bagua in front of you, looking into your home, draw the shape of the house and divide it into these 9 equal areas of the bagua. And so if you're looking in your doorway, the lower right-hand corner is known as mentors. Mentors, clients, helpful people, helpers, those are all the different names for this area. And it really relates to those people who support you. It is a critical area. It's frequently missing if you've got a garage on the exit side of your home. You're missing your mentor area, so I find this very often. And what's good to use in that area are things that relate to people who support you. And so sometimes that is a statue of Buddha, or maybe a Jewish star, or perhaps it's St. Francis. Whatever fits with your tradition, anything that feels like it represents what supports you.
Uh-oh, this is really good. My garage is in my mentor section. Of course, there is a door that leads from the garage into a hallway into the house. Is there anything that I can do to increase the mentors in my life?
Well, if your garage is in that area, you're not missing that area. You have it. But what we need to do is make sure you treat that garage the way you treat other rooms in your house. Obviously, keep it as clutter-free as you can. You can still keep a car in there. You can still keep paint cans in there, for example, but not if those are paint colors that you haven't had on your wall for 10 years. I suggest all the time that people decorate their garages, paint those walls. People tend not to paint the garage wall. Hang artwork right near that door, the door between the garage and the house. So when you're coming in, you're greeted by something that's warm and friendly. The thing I suggest is paint that door, the inside your garage, the one between the garage and the house, the same color or stain it the same as your front door. Use the same doormat by those 2 doors. If you decorate your door for holidays, make sure you decorate those doors the same, both of those doors, because once you drive into your garage, you're in your home. And if that's your mentor's area, you want to put things on the wall. You want to use objects that make you feel like you are being supported, mentored, helped.
Oh my goodness, I've got to go out there right now and redecorate my garage. Thank goodness it doesn't have that much clutter in it, but I've got to start decorating immediately.
I've got one. I put one in my garage.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you notice the change?
Well, it's actually next to my refrigerator on the opposite side. I didn't know I was supposed to put it somewhere special, though.
To recommend putting it by the door because we know you're going to see that every time you come in. A lot of people do vision boards. A great place to put your vision board is your garage because it is this helper area.
Vision boards. What a great idea. I've always wondered, where exactly do you put a vision board so that it's effective? Now I know. What about colors? I mean, should we pay attention to the ceiling color?
Let's talk about ceilings first. Walls are going to depend on where it is in a room. I tend to like light-colored ceilings. You can use a darker color on the ceiling if your ceilings are very, very high and you're feeling lost in the room. The chi is just not reaching you. It's going right up to the ceiling. A darker color ceiling will bring it down. I tend to like light-colored ceilings. They just are very neutral color, make us feel very grounded and comfortable in the room. Some of my clients that have very high ceilings have done things like paint clouds on the ceiling, or stars, or the moon, the sun, and the stars, vines, to make them feel like they are outdoors and much more comfortable. But in general, I like a light-colored ceiling. The walls, it depends on what area of the bagua the room is located in and what we need to fix, what we need to power up, what's going on in your life. So, for example, in a bedroom, it's always good to have some of the fire element, and the colors of the fire element are red, orange, deep orange, those very deep purples. Doesn't mean you have to live in a red bedroom, but it does mean maybe painting an accent wall in red to fire up what's going on in that bedroom, which is rest and romance. Or maybe adding some accents in the fire color. And so we use paint on walls depending on what we want to do in a particular area. You're always safe to do a nice earthy neutral on your walls and then accent the room with the color of the bagua area that it's in.
Oh, so tell me what is, and I know all the listeners are wanting to know, what is the color for the prosperity corner?
That's a fire color, similar to the bedroom. So the colors are reds, again, the deep, deep purples, not those wimpy kind of lilacs and lavenders, but those deep purples, and a very fiery orange. Those will fire up your wealth area.
So what if you have like a waterfall in that area? Is that canceling out everything?
I do recommend against that. And people tend to put water toward the back of their house, but I really recommend against that. The water runs the risk of putting out, dousing your fire. And so we want to encourage the fire. So fire itself, or the wood color, which is green, growing images, actual plants, images of growing things, because wood fuels fire. If you think about reality, when you're in your fireplace and it starts to grow down, you add more wood and it burns it and fuels it up, and your fire is raging and roaring again.
Very interesting. Using the bagua, is there any yearly corrections that we have to do? I know you have to do that with the compass, Feng Shui, but what about for the bagua?
What I like to suggest is that you take a look at the beginning of the year at the cures and the corrections you've made and make sure they're still working for you. Our styles change. You may have used some artwork to represent what you want to bring in a particular area of your life, and that artwork doesn't appeal to you anymore. Or your furniture has faded, or a cure you've used just doesn't work for you anymore. You may have put a money frog to bring wealth, and it's just not working for you, and you go back to the Feng Shui Emporium and look under wealth cures and find something that's more appealing to you. And so for me, it's more a question of taking a look around your house, taking a look at what's gone on in my life this past year. What do I want to change? How do I want it to be different? And how do I need to invigorate what I've already done?
That is good advice.
How often should you hire a consultant to come into your home? Or is it just like a one-time deal, or is it usually every couple of years or something?
I suggest you hire a consultant to come in anytime you feel things are not working the way you want them to work. I suggest you take a look 6 months after you've done all your changes, see if it's still working, consult with someone then. You may want to do it annually. Again, it's all about how your life is prospering. When I work with a client, there's 30 days of follow-up consulting built in because I want to keep them going. And then I will usually follow up with them at 6 months and say, okay, what's happening? How are you feeling? Is this still working for you? So it's really tuning into what's going on around you. Know when things are not working the way you want them to work.
Okay, so let's talk about computers. How do you feng shui a website?
It's one thing that I love to work with people on. It's designing their website according to Feng Shui principles. If you take a look at my website, which is fengshuiforreallife.com, you can see a lot of these principles. So, for example, at the top of the page, it's like using a bagua, let bagua over your homepage. So at the top of my page are some mountains in the background. And that's because we do want triangular shapes. There's a little red color up there, all to power up that very important back, what we call the power wall of your home, of your website. Across the bottom of my site, there are sort of wavy lines. That's the water. We want the water at the bottom. And so you can set up your homepage and other pages in your website, of course, according to the bagua areas, the colors that relate to the elements, the shape that relate to the elements, and the attributes of that particular area. So that's the way I always recommend dealing with your website. In terms of your computer, clutter, clutter, clutter are the three biggest issues. We tend to clutter up our computer desktop. We tend to clutter up our files just the way we tend to clutter up our homes. And you need to give it a good clearing every so often. Inboxes. I spent all last week going through dozens and dozens and dozens of emails that I'd opened but saved because I needed to read them or there were links I needed to follow. Really, the longer that sits in your inbox, the more stale energy, static chi you have. So just like your home, your computer is a room and it needs to be cleansed and clarified and cleaned out of this excess stuff.
So clearing and getting rid of the clutter is vital for attracting great chi. And that even includes cleaning out the refrigerator.
Absolutely. Beginning of the year, I tend to do a lot of clearing and cleaning on New Year's Day. But New Year's Day is a great time to clear out that refrigerator. And I like to say anything that's old, anything that's half used, anything that's fuzzy, it's time to get rid of it. It's a good time to go into your pantry and take a look at spices. Any spice that's been around for over 6 months has really lost its flavor. It's time to replace that. And food products that you just don't eat anymore, lots of places you can donate them if they're still healthy. But if you're not eating them, if you're not using them, time to get them out. The idea is to create space and room for the chi to flow. I'm very fond of saying nothing new flows into your life till you make room for it. And that's what all this clearing and moving does for us.
I really enjoy looking at finished rooms that have been feng shuied because you can see where the chi can go without any obstruction. It's just so easy, clean, beautiful, very calming because there's less clutter.
Right, exactly. It doesn't need to be total zen. It doesn't need to be without furniture, without color, without flair. There just needs to be openness for things to flow. Take a look at your bookshelves. We all love books and we tend to keep books. But if you're book to book to book, there's no room for new knowledge to flow in symbolically. So get rid of some of those novels you have from, your college lit courses. You're never going to reread them. And so make room for things to flow.
Great idea. Now, we all know Christmas is just around the corner, so I'm dying to ask you, Carol, what is it that you are going to be giving some of your friends for Christmas that has to do with Feng Shui?
Well, again, one thing I love to give is wind chimes. They just have so many uses. So a nice little wind chime sent or given to a friend is a wonderful gift. Healthy plants with rounded leaves. They represent coins, the round leaves, and prosperity. A nice red wallet. Red wallet is always good to attract prosperity, and I always feel you need to tuck some money in there as well. You don't want to give an empty wallet. Precious stones. My favorites are citrine to help attract clients and income, amethyst for balance, rose quartz for love. And Jim, I think you've got a lot of those available on your site.
Yes.
Books, I have to say books of all kinds. Of course, then I get to do the commercial for my book, The Feng Shui Quick Guide for Home and Office. Jim, I know, does have that in his bookstore. What I included in that is a day-by-day calendar of 366 tips to use one a day. So books are the kind of gifts that keep on giving all year long. What I recommend against giving as gifts from a Feng Shui perspective are sharp things. Knives, scissors, letter openers, because they're cutting. We don't want to give anything that symbolically cuts a relationship. Any kind of thorny plants, we recommend against that. And clocks and timepieces, because they represent counting away hours and limited life. But clocks, watches especially, make such good gifts that what we recommend is a gift certificate for them, and a picture of them rather than actually giving a timepiece as a gift.
Oh, that's brilliant. I was wondering how you go about that. Oh, wonderful. Is there any other taboo stuff that you shouldn't give?
Those are my favorite ones. I talked about a wallet, an empty wallet. I never like to give an empty wallet. I always like to put money in there. Bonsai, it's a very mixed feng shui question. Bonsai plants, I don't believe in giving as gifts any plant that's very stunted in growth, because it represents stunted life. I do have many clients who have them. They've had them for years. They take care of them. And then what we do is surround them in their homes with flowering plants. And so if you really feel the need to do that, then also give flowers or something flowery.
Okay. And I hear you can use silk flowers as much as real flowers. True or not?
Absolutely true. Silk is a fabric. It's lovely. But as with anything else in your home, when they start to fade, when they lose their color, when they get dusty, it's time to replace them. Feng Shui tends to recommend against dried flowers and plants because they are dead energy. I do understand if a bride has that bouquet, but if it's all desiccated and dried up, much better to save maybe one of those roses or rose petals and put them in a keepsake box rather than keeping the whole thing. So dried things that represent dead energy, not so good to give as gifts.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now my work is cut out for me. I have to go around and check all the silk plants in my house and make sure that they're all dust-free, or if I have to replace them. So, Jim, let's talk about Feng Shui Emporium, because it's so terrific and it has so many things that we could purchase and have delivered right to our door, which means that you have absolutely simplified my life. Now, you've got some interesting stories about how you began all this. Why don't you share them with us?
Well, from an early age, I had this visions, in my life, and I never could really put my thumb on it, what the visions were, but they seemed to always come to pass. No matter what I did, I just put a vision out there, and then they would come to me. Good or bad, the visions come, and then it just happens. So I had a strong intuition of the universe, very young, and I carried it with me, but it wasn't until I started listening to The Secret and, listening to your show until I really put it all together. You know how you meet people in life and you meet them for a reason. Well, I met this gentleman named Sean Chabra in 2007. He's been my mentor in business ever since, and now he owns an all-natural healing college. It's called naturalhealingcollege.com, and I work with him considerably, and he really supports me. So what happened was, in 2007, he put together 5 different businesses, and he said, choose one that you would like to run. And, what a blessing, So I said, well, I looked at all 5 of them, and then for some reason, Feng Shui Emporium caught my eye. And it was truly a law of attraction moment. I said, I want this one. And he said, okay. Well, he flew out to California, and he purchased it, and then came back, and I said, well, where's the stuff? He goes, it'll be here in 5 days. Okay, well, that's great. So I worked there for about a year. I really got to understand how the business works. I spoke with Cecil. She was the original owner of the Feng Shui Emporium. Not only owner, she created it. And she created it along with Professor Lin Yun and Edgar Sung, who owns a BTB school out in California. So they collaborated on this, come to find out, and they made it just an absolute wonderful thing. So, but the recession hit in 2008 that we all know, and I had to leave to go find a regular job, which I didn't want to, but I had to. And I told Sean, I said, Sean, I'm going to be back, and I'm going to buy Lucky Cat from you. And he said, well, okay, I'll sell it to you. So 2 years went by, and then some unfortunate events happened to me. I lost my job, and I was out for almost 2 weeks right after I lost my job. Might be depressed or whatever, but I climbed up on my roof to clean off some debris, leaves and things, and then I fell. The ladder dragged me down. My left foot was hung on the ladder, and my right foot was on the roof, and it dragged me off backwards. And I fell down, broke my back, landing on the ladder, and my shin was bruised to the bone, and all the wind is knocked out of me. So I just laid there, and I looked at the morning sun. And Jules, I can't tell you, but I feel like I died at that moment. So as I'm laying there, I looked at the sun, and then I closed my eyes, and then something came over me saying, no, you just started your next life. So what happened was I opened my eyes, and then I could hear, my wife was out there, and she was screaming, and they're trying to get a hold of the ambulance and everything, and then finally my breath just came right back into me, and then I felt the pain in my back and my shin. And so what happened there was that I was down for 3 months or so, but I never lost track of what I wanted. I still had the vision. I still had the things that I wanted to do. I was so grateful of the experience that I had in my life, and my kids and my wife, and I was just very thankful from that moment. It just all came to me. The date that happened, I'll never forget, was November 11th at 2011 at 11 o'clock in the morning. It happened right on the dot. So
wow.
Anyways, I got myself back up, and 3 months later, couldn't find a job. Nothing was coming up, absolutely nothing. So I remember I was driving over to, I don't know if I was going to talk to Sean, but I was listening to The Secret in the car, and then I had this, I think it was Joe that said, you expect, so just intend it. I expect $25,000 in the next 30 days. And, and I sat there and I said it with so much passion. I said it with conviction, and I felt really good about it. And then, I just said, well, it's coming to me. So what happened was it came to me. It fell out of the sky, literally. And I have no idea how it came to pass, but I was able to get that money to take over to Sean, and he let me have the business from that point.
Well, that's great. I love an inspirational story, but it just doesn't end there. Keep going.
Well, this is really going to just blow your mind. So I had Lucky Cat, so I was running it, at home. I didn't really have a regular job, My wife went off to work, but I was watching the 2 kids. And after buying it, I still needed some more income, and I just didn't know where to start. So I actually received a call from 2 ladies, it was Sue and Elaine, and they said that they were coming to St. Louis and they would like to stop and get some Feng Shui products. I said, well, yes, come over to the warehouse. I'll meet you there and we can discuss it. Well, we also had dinner, and she said, have you had your house feng shuied yet? I said, no, I should. So it was a great moment. And so she said, I'm coming over. So before we go back home, I'm coming over to your house. And I said, well, that's fantastic. So they came over, and the very first thing, I was talking to Sue, and then Elaine just took off throughout the house, And this was quite an experience for me, so it was really interesting. But she, after she did everything that she needed to do, she told me that we needed to move. My wife and I needed to move out of the room that we were in and trade places with my oldest son because he was in the relationship area. So I thought, oh my goodness! And our other two kids need to get out of that room, and I need my office in that room. And I thought, well, where are my kids going? So. So I kind of felt bad, but we did make the change. We moved everything around and tried to get everything organized the way that they said. They said, the way that my front door faces the back windows, we need to put a hanging wind chimes in the front and in the back, as well as 2 crystals. And we also had the sword, the coin sword for protection. We hung that over our entry door. And I thought, oh my gosh, everything is just, so we put everything in place. We moved our rooms around, took a week, and finally we had it all situated, but still nothing was happening. I could feel like the house was a vibration, Mm-hmm. You could feel that, but it's kind of like turning on a water fountain, with the pump going and everything, but there's no water. And I thought, well, what is going on? So I got to thinking about, I didn't like the front entry door, and they told me that, you got to do something with this. What happened was we had some water damage in our front, and the tiles came off. And the people previously to us, they just put the tile over some plywood. Well, as rainwater comes down, it rots the wood. So these started popping off, and then it was all rotten. Mm-hmm. So, and we had it there for about 6 months. It's going to take some time to put it together, but I didn't have any time. So Catherine Hilker, she's one of my consultants, and she wrote an article that made me change everything. She wrote an article with the mouth of Chi. What does the front door say about you? So, of course, I read it first before I published it, but I sitting there reading it, and I thought, oh, my goodness, this is it. I sent the article out, and then I ran upstairs, and I stood there for a few minutes, and I said, well, now it's time. So I went outside and got my tools, and I started working on that front steps, and I tore out all of that rotten wood. And then I went up to the hardware store and grabbed me some plywood, came back, and I put it back together. And I thought, oh, this is great. So what am I going to put over it? My father-in-law came over, and he says, let's go up and have a look again. So we went up there, and I found some really beautiful stone. And I put that stone on there. It took me about 4 days to finally get it done. And then, with any artist or anything that you're proud of, you say, now it's completed. And mind you, I've been looking for a job for 6 months, and I'd go to interview after interview. The day that I said that front steps was finished, I got a phone call from a recruiter, and he said that, hey, that job that we were talking about that was about 3 months ago? Are you still interested in that? And I said, yeah. He goes, I want you to come over to an interview. I went over to an interview, and they hired me that day. So it was absolutely amazing. It feels like the flow of the chi just started rushing through our house because I took care of that blemish of a front entry. So with that said, it doesn't end there. We had a vision board up on our wall with a car that my wife really wanted. It was a van. She had it up there for about a year, and 3 days ago, we went and bought that van.
Wow.
So we're truly blessed in that way. And then our kids' attitudes all changed around because we moved them to different rooms. My oldest son had treated everybody like he was the adult, and because he was in that section of the house and was in the relationship. That's where we're supposed to be, because it's the master area, the master of the home. So we moved him to a spot that he wouldn't be so ornery, so we did that, and sure enough, his attitude has changed completely. And I cannot stress the importance of why people need a Feng Shui consultant. It's like a three-dimensional. I read the books, I watch the TV show, but it's not about me. It's about a general, it's more general. Whenever a consultant comes to your home, they are there for you. They listen to everything that you want, and they go through your home, and then they make sure that they hit those spots to really enhance your life. So that's basically my few minutes of stories on the consultants, and I tell you, it's an experience.
Wow, that's such a wonderful story. So what kind of Feng Shui are you using in your house?
The only one that I have had the closest amount of experience with is the Black Sect.
Okay.
The entire Lucky Cat is for all Feng Shui. No matter what kind of needs that you have, we have it. The store has been in business since 1996. It was one of the very first Feng Shui stores online, if not one of the first stores online. Edgar Sung, who owns the college out there in California, as well as Professor Lin Yun, helped her.
So what are some of the biggest selling items that you have right now?
Oh, well, it depends on the time of the year. Swarovski crystals are a very big seller. We pride ourselves on being the number one. We're not really a distributor; we're retail, but we have very close ties to Austria. And of course, the mirrors, the Bagua mirrors, the beveled and round mirrors, as well as the convex mirrors that they put around their homes. So those are some of the major ones, but we also have the colored crystals, which are very cool, and we have coins. We sell a lot of the little 3 coins.
Yeah.
They are they're very considerably wanted out there, and of course the 3-legged toads.
Yeah.
Quite a few of those guys. Especially in the economy, we're selling a lot of money and wealth, prosperity. I think we have a prosperity vase that is really neat. It's quite a ritual. It cost about $108, but what comes with it is a small vase, and then you get the ritual with it where you can put the items in there. It comes with everything, other than I believe there's some, you need to go to a rich neighbor or a rich person's house and get a little dirt out of their yard, It's quite an experience.
Sounds like fun. So that's great. So the wealth, prosperity things are selling really good.
Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming specials for the holidays?
Oh, do I have a special? I've got a special for your listeners.
Oh, good.
Oh, my goodness. I want to do something that is quite unique for us. We have, just for your listeners, because we welcome all of you with open arms, we are here to help you create a beautiful life starting today. When you make a purchase on LuckyCat.com, use the purchase code JEWELS10. It's JEWELS10 to receive a 10% discount on any products in our store.
Wow.
Matter the size or the product or the order, we'll only charge you $7.50 for the shipping in the United States.
Oh, my goodness. That is fabulous.
On top of that, if your callers order over $100, I will throw in the shipping. I'll pay $7.50. So, and Jules, I also want your listeners to sign up on our newsletter so we can keep in contact with them. We want to give them the updates and the sales and tips from our Feng Shui consultants. We have many Feng Shui consultants, and we just started rolling this out where they write an article for us, and it has just been a huge success.
Wow.
If you do sign up with our newsletter, we're going to give you an extra 10% discount code that you can use at any time you choose. Now, you're going to get articles like The Power of Nine, and the one that changed my life was The Mouth of the Chi, which was just amazing. And then Carol, she wrote a great article on Feng Shui office makeover. So you can actually enhance your career just doing a few little things, and it's just very powerful. But there's something really special, because I really like you, Jules, and I like your listeners.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Welcome. I have something that is just amazing and you cannot find on my store. And what it is a special semi-precious stone. And these are used for gratitude. So I carry one with me at all times, and it's so powerful just to even look at it. What we've done is you know what, I can't tell you the secret, but they are highly active with the secret ritual, and you put them in your pocket or set them on your altar, and I am not kidding, you will give it some thanks, give thanks for your life, and give thanks for your kids and your wives and husbands, and just really give thanks, and whenever you're rubbing on that, and your life will absolutely change. It changed for me, and it'll change for you. I absolutely guarantee it. So let me go over this one more time. What I'm going to do is give your listeners 10% discount on all the products for entering Jules10 in the promotion code at the checkout.
Wow.
JEWELS 10. And then if you sign up with my newsletter, which you can do whenever you're checking out, it's just a little checkbox there, you're going to get an additional 10% code in your email that you'll just be able to enter at any time that you want for all those goodies like the information and articles. And then finally, I'm going to give you the gratitude rock. And those are only for those that enter in the Jules10 promotion code at checkout.
If you're listening from your car, or you're exercising, or you're listening through your MP3 and you do not have a pencil or paper, and if you can't remember LuckyCat.com, go to LOARadionetwork.com, go to our LOA store, click on the Lucky Cat picture, and it has all of the information and the codes and everything, just in case you forget, so that you can go there and start doing your Christmas shopping. It's going to be a terrific season. This has been such a great show, and I've got my work cut out for me now, going and doing my house. But I do want to thank Carol Umstead for taking the time and coming on and sharing with us such incredible information.
Thanks so much, Jules. It was great.
And thank you, Jim Thomas, for coming on and sharing your stories and for all of your wonderful gifts to us. Oh, my goodness. We are so blessed. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you very much, Carol, and thank you, Jules, and all your listeners out there. Thank you.
And thank you to all my wonderful listeners. I love you, and just know that we will be back next week with another terrific show all about the law of attraction. See you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com, and have a great week.